May.
If Kate and William did this, do you
think they never release it?
If they did,
do you think Kate would release a working video heavily
headlines?
pregnant at the bedside?
Would people say things like that?
These two will sell anything about their privacy.
A lot of the royal watchers were complaining that they felt like her posts on social media where she barely shows the kids is almost taunting the king who doesn't know these children and how unfair.
Harry and Meghan, it's more a case of never reign and never abstain, especially when it comes to nauseating self-publicity.
Prince William doubles down. According to multiple sources, it's now a matter of when, not if, he strips Prince Harry and Meghan Markle of their royal titles.
They're legally covering their backs. There's just too many unknowns. And then, of course, we have that the doctor that allegedly delivered Lily quit her practice 2 weeks after giving birth to Lily, or delivering Lily.
Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough for people to notice. Because suddenly, the conversation wasn't just about Harry and Meghan anymore. It was about their children, their titles, their identity.
Princess Lilibet Diana had been christened. Why would they use a title for their children that represents an institution they loathe so much? Harry and Meghan have never provided any evidence for that highly incendiary claim. It's not like they haven't had the chance to. After all, they pumped out 6 hours of self-indulgent builds on Netflix, trashing Britain and the press for its race.
And a question that refuses to go away. Why hold on to something you've spent years criticizing? If you want more deep dives into royal stories like this, make sure to subscribe to Royal Archives, because this one is far from over. It started, as many of these moments do, with Piers Morgan, blunt, unfiltered, and this time, louder than usual. He didn't just criticize Harry and Meghan, he accused them of something far more damaging. Not scandal, not betrayal, hypocrisy. On an industrial scale. And whether people agree with him or not, that phrase stuck because it points to something uncomfortable. For Harry and Meghan have spent years describing the royal system as restrictive, even harmful, a structure they felt trapped in, a life they had to escape. And yet, that same system.
She was never pregnant at all. Instead, the videos emboldened conspiracy theorists, calling it Megspiracy, and the pair are being subjected to yet more merciless ridicule. Meghan's Netflix series, released this morning, is packed with, well, not really revelations, it's a rehashed old revelations on a new twist. As it turns out, we've apparently run all along. Britain's a nasty, racist hellhole.
Still follows them in their titles, in their branding, in every headline that includes the word royal. And now, with Archie and Lilibet officially recognized as prince and princess, that contradiction has only grown louder. Because suddenly, this isn't just about two adults making their own choices. It's about the next generation, and the role they never chose. The timing is what caught people's attention. The announcement came quietly. No grand ceremony, no palace balcony moment, just a confirmation. Prince Archie, Princess Lilibet. Simple words, but they carried weight, because for years the messaging had been different. There were moments when it seemed like Harry and Meghan wanted distance from the system, even protection for their children from it. Privacy, normalcy, a life outside the spotlight. So when the titles appeared, people started asking questions.
Harry and Meghan Markle's surrogacy scandal has entered the mainstream media domain.
With a bit more, you could call it aggressively. When it came to errant members of a royal family, you sent them off to war and hoped that war took care of the rest, sort of thing. And so I think in this sort of modern era, you do actually need some way to, discipline may sound like a harsh word, but to share with them, hey, you're part of this, you have to be a situation like Harry. Because Harry and Meghan left, in part because they thought they could just do whatever the heck they wanted. Nobody was going to tell.
Not conspiracy theories, not speculation, just simple, logical questions. Why now? What changed? And what does it actually mean? That's where the media stepped in. Some defended the move, saying it was their right, that under royal rules, the children became eligible once King Charles took the throne. Which is true, but others weren't convinced, because this wasn't just about eligibility, it was about intention. And intention is where the debate gets messy. Piers Morgan didn't hesitate, he framed it as branding. A continuation of what he believes is a long-running contradiction, criticizing the monarchy while still benefiting from its influence. And when he said it out loud, a lot of people started repeating it because whether you support Harry and Meghan or not, you can see the tension, you can feel it. It's in the interviews, the documentaries, the statements. One moment, the institution is described as deeply flawed. The next, its titles are still being used. Still carrying weight, still opening doors. That contrast is what keeps this story alive. And it's not just coming from commentators like Piers Morgan, even within royal circles.
case about whether you think the birth was real, whether you think there was a surrogate, whether you think Meghan was wearing a moon bump. The fact is, Harry and Meghan lied. Buckingham Palace lied on their behalf. There was a complete...
Now they want to give their kids the titles of prince and princess, even though they don't live anywhere near the royal family. They don't do any duties. They do nothing to deserve it. They live in a mansion in Montecito in California and use their own royal titles to make loads of money. Omid, surely you as the author, I mean, you must be furious, right? You must be demanding. Heads roll. And you want names, don't you, ironically? Omid, about who did this to you? Who besmirched your reputation as an author? I would, Omid. I'd want to know right now, especially if I was trying to convince the world that I had nothing to do with it myself. And I'd never, ever put these names in writing. And maybe some lawyer had come along and told me not to. I mean, that couldn't possibly have happened because you've given us your word. And as I've established so far in this monologue, your word is your bond and should be taken as sacrosanct. Well, I'm going to cut through all this crap. I'm going to tell you the names of the two.
There's been a noticeable shift in tone, more silence, more distance, fewer responses, which, in royal terms...
They invited all the royals to Lilibet's christening, but they all declined to come because they're all going to get on a plane and fly to California to embrace the people who've been trashing them for the last 3 years.
Can say more than words ever could, because the royal family rarely reacts directly. They don't argue publicly. They don't defend themselves in interviews. But they do something else. They wait.
I do now, yeah. I think because it's their currency, isn't it? They've made an awful lot of money. And again, it's their tax by having that association with the royal family.
And sometimes that silence builds more pressure than any statement ever could. At the center of all this are two children, Archie and Lilibet, who didn't choose any of this, but are now part of one of the most debated identity questions in modern royal history. Are they private citizens or public figures? Are they being protected from the institution or connected to it? And more importantly, what does their future actually look like?
So, concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What? About how dark our baby is going to be?
There was no racism.
No, none at all, and that was actually quite shameful what was said at that time.
Let's remember what she said. This is what she told.
The idea of the first member of color in this family not being titled in the same way that other grandchildren would be.
Because titles aren't just symbolic. They come with expectations, visibility, and, whether anyone admits it or not, scrutiny. That's where the conversation starts to shift, from criticism to concern. Because this isn't just about headlines anymore, it's about what happens next. There's also another layer that's harder to ignore, public perception. That's because perception doesn't rely on facts alone. It's shaped by timing, tone, and consistency. And right now, that consistency is being questioned, not just by critics, but by people who once supported them. That's what makes this moment different. This isn't just backlash, it's confusion.
It's not their right to take it away.
It was a complete... Hang on, Tessa. It was a complete lie.
Appalling ignorant.
In the royal family that Prince William was forced to deny.
Michael, you want to jump in?
This is another example.
His Majesty the King has played a blinder on this because he let it.
And confusion keeps people watching, keeps them clicking, keeps them asking, what's really going on here? Even online, the conversation has become louder. Speculation has spread in different directions. Some of it exaggerated, some of it completely unverified. And while those claims shouldn't be treated as fact, their existence says something important. People feel like they're missing part of the story. And when that happens, they fill the gaps themselves. That's the danger. Because once a narrative starts forming, it becomes harder to control. And right now, the narrative isn't slowing down. It's accelerating. Meanwhile, inside the royal structure, something else is happening. Quietly, no announcements, no press briefings, just observation. Because for an institution built on tradition, clarity matters, consistency matters. And when either of those starts to blur...
Other titles mean there is less of a chance for a degenerate like Prince Andrew, now called Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, to slip through.
Questions follow. Which brings us to the part nobody can ignore. Because this isn't just about titles anymore. It's about what those titles represent. Power, history, identity, and whether they still mean the same thing in a world that's rapidly changing.
thinks she's too wonderful to be left out of it, and she will win because he'll go to court if she doesn't keep her title. I don't know, it's very hard. It's very hard to keep.
For Harry and Meghan, this moment may define how they're seen moving forward, not as victims, not as rebels, but as something more complicated, something harder to categorize. And that's where things get unpredictable. And because once public perception shifts,
so you can't really put them into the Buckingham Palace and say, look, if you feel like doing any work, do it.
It doesn't always shift back. And what happens next may not be something they can control. Because behind the headlines, behind the debates, there's a growing sense that this story isn't finished, not even close. In fact, it may just be getting started. And what comes next could change everything. And this is where the tone changes. Because up to this point, the debate has been loud, but still manageable. Opinions, arguments, headlines fighting for attention.
She wants to do anything politically in America, which is on and off with her, isn't it? She can't do it with the title, so what's she worried about?
But now, there's a deeper question starting to surface. Not about what was said, not about what was done, but about what happens next. If nothing changes, because one thing is becoming clear. This situation isn't resolving itself. It's evolving slowly, quietly, but unmistakably. And the longer it goes unresolved, the more pressure builds around it.
Set out to destroy you. You destroyed yourselves in this country with your ludicrous, hypocritical behaviour. Truth be told, what she just did is complete utter garbage.
That pressure isn't coming from one place. It's coming from everywhere. Media voices, royal commentators, public opinion shifting in real time.
The thing is that these children are being raised in some type of freak show. You know, it's like they are Michael Jackson's children who were paraded to the world.
Even people who once stayed neutral are starting to pick a side, or at least ask harder questions.
Even if Harry and Meghan right now are earning their own money, that well is drying up. You've got to take the ability for them to damage the royal family.
Because the contradiction hasn't gone away. If anything, it's becoming more visible. On one hand, a continued distance from the royal institution. On the other, continued association with it. Titles, recognition, identity, and that duality is becoming harder to explain. Piers Morgan leaned into that tension again. He didn't change his tone, he doubled down, calling it a situation that can't exist forever. That eventually...
California Birth Index, per the website at CaliforniaBirthIndex.org, California Birth Index, or CABI, is a database that stores records of births in California for tracks of birth certificates.
Something has to give. And whether you agree with him or not, that idea lingers. Some because history tends to support it. The monarchy has always adapted, sometimes slowly, sometimes dramatically, but always with one priority: preserving the institution, not individuals, not feelings, the institution. And when something begins to challenge that balance, adjustments follow. Not always immediately, not always publicly, but eventually. That's what people are starting to watch for now. Not statements, not interviews, but movement, subtle signs, small shifts, changes that don't get announced by noise, but get noticed. Because in royal dynamics, what isn't said often matters more than what is. There's also another factor that complicates everything: time. Because time doesn't freeze public perception, it reshapes it. What once felt sympathetic can start to feel repetitive. What once felt justified can start to feel inconsistent. And what once felt like a powerful narrative can begin to lose clarity. That's where this situation is drifting. Into a space where people aren't reacting emotionally anymore. They're analyzing, comparing, questioning. And once an audience shifts from emotion to analysis, everything changes. Because now, they're not just listening, they're evaluating. And that's when narratives start to crack. Not because they're false, but because they're no longer convincing to everyone. That's the risk. And it's happening in real time. Meanwhile, the children, Archie and Lilibet, remain at the center of something they never chose.
Okay, well, we have to come out and show the baby in some way, but we're not coming out to the street.
Their titles have sparked a conversation that goes far beyond names. It's about identity, belonging, and expectations, because titles aren't passive. They carry weight, they invite attention, they create assumptions. And whether their parents want it or not, those expectations follow, especially as they grow older, especially as the world keeps watching. And make no mistake, the world is watching. Because this isn't just a family story anymore. It's a global narrative, one that blends tradition with modern identity.
Just no longer HRH. With safety delivered of a son, she and her child are both doing well. So back to the tradition of putting out a framed bulletin or gilded easel.
One that challenges old rules while still being connected to them. That tension is what keeps people engaged. And it's also what keeps the story alive. But here's where things become unpredictable, because there's no clear resolution.
Meghan Markle gave birth to Lily, because this is what's called plausible deniability. They want to be able to say, hey, we never claimed that she was our daughter in that announcement.
No single moment that fixes everything. Instead, there are only paths, and each path comes with consequences. Continue as things are, and the contradiction continues to fuel debate. Step further away, and the connection to the royal identity weakens. Shock lean back into the institution. And the criticism returns in a different form. There's no easy version of this story. And that's exactly why it works. Because people don't just want answers. They want to see how it plays out. Who changes, who stands firm, who adapts, and who doesn't. That's what keeps viewers watching until the end. Because deep down, this doesn't feel finished. It feels like a turning point. One of those moments where everything could shift, but hasn't yet. And those moments are the most compelling because they sit right on the edge of change, right before something gives, right before a decision is made, right before the narrative moves in a direction nobody fully expects. And right now, that's exactly where this story is, on the edge. Not resolved, not settled, but building quietly, relentlessly. Until eventually, something forces the next move. And when that happens, it won't just affect headlines. It will reshape how this entire story is remembered. So the real question isn't what's already happened, it's what happens next. Does the distance grow wider, or does something pull it back together? Because either way, this story isn't fading, it's evolving, and if you've been following closely, you already know those are the biggest moments in royal history are often the ones no one sees coming. If you want to stay ahead of stories like this, where the narrative keeps shifting and the real story unfolds over time, make sure you're subscribed to Royal Archives, because the next chapter might arrive sooner than anyone expects.